What does it mean to fight for something bigger than yourself? Something deeply rooted in your identity and unshakable in its significance? Today, we're exploring one of the most awe-inspiring stories of faith, courage, and resilience, the remarkable journey of the Maccabean family warriors. These men and women didn't just challenge an empire. They defied the odds, reshaped history, and left a legacy of unwavering faith that continues to inspire millions. This isn't just a historical account. It's a story about standing firm when the odds are stacked against you. It's about choosing faith over fear, even when the entire world seems determined to silence you. As we dive into their journey, let's ask ourselves, how far would we go to defend what we believe in? And what lessons can we draw from their sacrifices in today's world? Before we begin, if you are passionate about uncovering the deeper truths behind biblical stories or love learning about history and faith, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring these incredible stories to you. The story begins during one of the most chaotic periods in Jewish history, under the crushing rule of the Seleucid Empire. Antiochus IV Epiphanes, a king obsessed with forcing cultural assimilation, sought to erase the Jewish faith by imposing Greek religion and customs. The consequences of resistance were brutal: imprisonment, torture, and even execution. Yet, in the face of this oppression, one family rose to defy him. Mattathias, a priest from the small town of Modi'in, and his 5 sons refused to comply. Their actions ignited a revolt that not only liberated their people, but also restored the sacred traditions that defined their faith and identity. To truly understand the Maccabean revolt, we need to explore the historical turmoil that set the stage. After the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE, his vast empire fractured into smaller kingdoms ruled by his generals. Israel found itself caught between 2 of these successor states, the Seleucid Empire to the north and the Ptolemaic kingdom to the south. For decades, these powers clashed, using Israel as a pawn in their struggle for dominance. Life under Seleucid rule initially allowed the Jewish people to maintain their traditions and autonomy. However, this fragile peace ended abruptly with the rise of Antiochus IV. Driven by a vision of uniting his empire under one Hellenistic culture, he banned key Jewish practices like observing the Sabbath, studying the Torah, and circumcision, on penalty of death. These measures weren't just cultural impositions. They were existential threats to the Jewish identity. The crisis reached its peak when Antiochus desecrated the temple in Jerusalem. He built an altar to Zeus within its walls and sacrificed pigs there, an act of profound desecration for the Jewish people. This wasn't just an attack on their religion. It was a direct challenge to their core beliefs. In Modi'in, Mattathias faced a devastating choice. Ordered to perform a public pagan sacrifice, he refused. When another Jewish man stepped forward to comply, Mattathias struck him down along with the Seleucid officer overseeing the ritual. This single act of defiance reverberated across the land, sparking the Maccabean revolt. Knowing the danger they now faced, Mattathias and his sons fled to the wilderness, rallying others who shared their determination to resist. Their fight wasn't conventional. The Maccabees used guerrilla tactics, leveraging the rugged terrain to ambush patrols, disrupt supply lines, and strike quickly before retreating into the hills. Though outnumbered and poorly equipped, their unshakable faith and resolve made them a formidable force. Initially, the Seleucids underestimated the revolt, sending small contingents of soldiers to suppress it. But with every skirmish, the Maccabees emerged victorious, inspiring more people to join their ranks. Each win wasn't just a military success. It was a testament to their belief that God was with them. Their faith united them and gave them strength to persevere against overwhelming odds. The revolt's significance extended far beyond survival. It became a fight for the soul of the Jewish people. Each victory reaffirmed their commitment to their sacred traditions and their identity as a community of faith. When Mattathias passed away, leadership of the revolt fell to his son Judas, known as Maccabeus or the Hammer. His name reflected his strength and determination. Under Judas's leadership, the revolt transformed into a disciplined campaign for liberation. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Judas used his intimate knowledge of the terrain and his people's faith to outmaneuver and defeat Seleucid forces. One of Judas's first major victories occurred at the Battle of Beth Horon. The Seleucids, confident in their superior numbers, marched into the hills expecting an easy victory. Judas turned the narrow passes into a weapon, ambushing and routing their forces. News of the triumph spread, galvanizing the resistance. Judas also excelled in inspiring his followers. He framed every victory as evidence of divine intervention, strengthening their resolve. This belief that their fight was righteous became a rallying cry for the Jewish people to stand united against oppression. The Seleucids, alarmed by the growing resistance, sent larger and better equipped armies to crush the revolt. But Judas and his forces repeatedly outsmarted them. At the Battle of Emmaus, Judas launched a daring night attack, dismantling the enemy's camp and leaving their army in disarray. Each victory reinforced the Maccabees' faith that their cause was not only just, but also divinely supported. The Maccabean revolt wasn't just a battle for territory. It was a fight for the preservation of faith, identity, and freedom. It stands as a testament to the power of resilience, unity, and belief in the face of impossible odds. Perhaps Judas's most significant triumph came with the reconquest of Jerusalem. After years of oppression and defilement, the Maccabean forces marched into the city, reclaiming it from Seleucid control. With fervor and devotion, they purified the temple, removing every trace of desecration left by Antiochus. This act was far more than a ritual. It was a proclamation that their faith had endured unbroken through the darkest of time. The rededication of the temple sparked the celebration of Hanukkah, a festival rooted in the miracle of the oil. According to tradition, the Maccabees found only enough consecrated oil to keep the menorah burning for a single day. Yet, against all odds, the flame burned for 8 days, a vivid sign of God's providence and blessing. Despite these victories, the Seleucid Empire refused to give up. They sent wave after wave of armies to crush the resistance. Each new battle was more grueling than the last, but Judas stood undeterred, leading his troops with unshakable courage and deep faith. His actions made him not just a military leader, but a symbol of hope for oppressed people everywhere. Judas showed the ancient world that even the mightiest empires could fall when faced with unity and conviction. As the war dragged on, Judas achieved astonishing feats against overwhelming odds. His leadership laid the foundation for the Hasmonean dynasty, an era of renewed Jewish sovereignty and religious freedom. However, Judas's legacy extended beyond military triumphs. He proved that faith, courage, and unity could overcome even the most insurmountable challenges. His story remains a testament to the enduring power of belief and the resilience of the human spirit. Judas Maccabeus didn't just lead an army, he inspired a nation. His victories proved that steadfast faith could make the impossible a reality. Yet, the Maccabean revolt wasn't defined solely by battles. It also relied on the silent strength of those who fought in other ways, especially the women whose sacrifices remain integral to the narrative. One particularly poignant story emerges from the second book of Maccabees. It tells of a mother and her 7 sons who were captured during the reign of Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Faced with the choice of renouncing their faith or suffering death, they refused to compromise. One by one, the sons were tortured and executed before their mother's eyes. Despite her grief, she stood resolute, encouraging her sons to remain faithful to their beliefs, speaking not with fear, but with hope and conviction. When the youngest son hesitated, Antiochus promised him riches and freedom if he abandoned his faith. Yet his mother leaned in and spoke words of unyielding encouragement. "Do not fear this butcher, accept death, so I may see you again in mercy with your brothers." Inspired by her unwavering faith, the boy stood firm. The mother followed her sons in death, her devotion and courage unbroken. This story encapsulates the heart of the Maccabean revolt. While Judas and his warriors fought on the battlefield, individuals like this mother embodied the same bravery in their spiritual defiance. Their sacrifices reinforced the collective resolve to fight not just for their land, but for their identity and connection to God. The courage of this mother and her sons wasn't an isolated act. It symbolized the heartbeat of the Maccabean movement, Their sacrifices paved the way for the victories that followed, culminating in the miraculous rededication of the temple. This turning point reshaped Jewish history. When Judas and his forces entered Jerusalem, they found devastation. The once holy temple had been desecrated, with an altar to Zeus standing where the sanctuary once was. For Judas and his people, this was more than a physical ruin. It was a profound spiritual wound. They immediately began cleansing and restoring the temple. Idols were destroyed, the altar was purified, and new sacred vessels were crafted. Finally, the menorah, the eternal symbol of divine light, was lit once again. Though they had only a single flask of consecrated oil, enough for one day, a miracle occurred. The menorah burned for 8 days, granting the priests time to prepare more oil. This event became the foundation of Hanukkah, a celebration of faith, perseverance, and divine favor. The rededication of the temple was a triumph, but the struggle wasn't over. The Seleucids continued to send forces, determined to crush the rebellion. Yet Judas's victories ignited hope, proving that their fight was not in vain. His actions set the stage for a new era of Jewish autonomy. After Judas's death, leadership passed to his brothers, particularly Jonathan and Simon. They carried the torch, negotiating with Seleucid generals and forging alliances to secure Jewish independence. Under Simon's rule, Judea achieved both religious freedom and political sovereignty, marking the start of the Hasmonean dynasty. Simon, known for his wisdom and pragmatism, became the dynasty's first ruler, uniting civil and religious authority. During his reign, Judea flourished, expanding its borders and fortifying its cities. However, the independence they fought for came with challenges. Hellenistic influences persisted, creating divisions between those embracing these changes and others determined to preserve tradition. Despite these challenges, the Hasmonean dynasty's establishment was a monumental achievement. For the first time in centuries, the Jewish people governed themselves, openly practiced their faith, and rebuilt their society on their own terms. It was a testament to the sacrifices made by the Maccabean family and their unwavering dedication to their beliefs. The story of the Maccabees, from their revolt to the miracle of Hanukkah and the establishment of the Hasmonean rule, is a powerful reminder of what faith, courage, and determination can achieve. Their legacy continues to inspire, serving as a beacon of hope for all who face overwhelming odds. While the Maccabean revolt and the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty were monumental achievements, the story did not end in unbroken triumph. As generations passed, the Hasmonean rulers faced challenges that would ultimately lead to their decline. Their journey holds important lessons about leadership, unity, and the consequences of compromise. The early Hasmonean leaders, like Judas, Jonathan, and Simon, were guided by faith and a deep sense of responsibility to preserve their people's spiritual and cultural identity. However, as the dynasty progressed, power and politics began to take precedence over these ideals. The later Hasmonean rulers, starting with John Hyrcanus, shifted their focus to territorial expansion and political consolidation, sometimes at the expense of their religious principles. John Hyrcanus, the son of Simon, successfully expanded Judea's borders, bringing neighboring regions under Jewish control. Yet, his methods sparked controversy. In some areas, conquered populations were forced to convert to Judaism, a practice that diverged from the values of earlier Hasmonean leaders. This policy not only sowed seeds of resentment, but also blurred the line between faith and political ambition. The dynasty's decline deepened during the reign of Aristobulus I and Alexander Jannaeus. These rulers embraced Hellenistic practices, creating a rift between the ruling elite and the more devout segments of Jewish society. Alexander Jannaeus, in particular, ruled with an iron fist, facing multiple revolts from his own people. His harsh policies and polarizing leadership led to widespread discontent and internal strife. Amid this political turmoil, religious factions began to emerge, further dividing the Jewish people. The Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essenes, each with their distinct beliefs and priorities, rose to prominence during this period. While these groups enriched Jewish thought and practice in many ways, Their rivalries also reflected the growing divisions within Judean society. Perhaps one of the most poignant chapters in the Hasmonean decline came during the reign of Salome Alexander. Unlike her predecessors, Salome sought to mend divisions, fostering peace and prosperity through inclusive leadership. Her reign was a rare moment of unity, but it was short-lived. Upon her death, a bitter power struggle erupted between her sons, Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II. Their infighting weakened the dynasty and opened the door to foreign intervention. The final blow came in 63 BCE when the Roman general Pompey intervened in the conflict, capturing Jerusalem and ending Hasmonean sovereignty. Judea was reduced to a client state of Rome, and the Hasmonean dynasty was effectively dissolved. What had begun as a movement for faith and freedom ended in political fragmentation and foreign domination. Yet, even in its decline, the Hasmonean story offers profound lessons. It reminds us that success in faith and leadership requires vigilance. The early Maccabees succeeded because they placed their values above personal ambition, uniting their people around a shared purpose. But as the dynasty grew more powerful, compromises and divisions undermined its foundation. For modern audiences, the Hasmonean decline serves as a cautionary tale. It calls us to reflect on the dangers of losing sight of our principles in the pursuit of power or progress. It also emphasizes the importance of unity, reminding us that great achievements are only sustained when communities remain rooted in shared values and mutual respect. The story of the Maccabean family is one of courage, conviction, and the enduring power of faith. Their journey, from a small band of rebels to the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty, demonstrates the incredible impact of unwavering belief in the face of overwhelming odds. Yet it is also a story of human vulnerability, reminding us that even the greatest victories can be undone when principles are compromised. As we reflect on this tale, we're left with several key lessons. First, the Maccabees teach us the value of standing firm for what we believe in, even when the stakes are unimaginably high. Their resistance against the Seleucid Empire wasn't just about survival. It was about preserving their identity, their values, and their relationship with God. In today's world, where challenges to personal and collective integrity are all too common, their example remains profoundly relevant. Second, their story underscores the importance of unity. The early Maccabees succeeded because they inspired a shared vision among their people. They reminded their community of what truly mattered and called on them to rise above fear and division. This unity was their greatest weapon, and it serves as a powerful reminder for us today. When we stand together, we are capable of extraordinary things. Finally, the decline of the Hasmonean dynasty serves as a cautionary tale. It shows us that the greatest dangers often come not from external enemies, but from within. When leadership loses sight of its core values and divisions take root, even the most successful movements can falter. This lesson calls us to reflect on how we lead, how we build, and how we sustain the things that matter most. As we close, consider the example of the Maccabees in your own life. What battles are you fighting? What values are you standing up for? How can you foster unity and inspire others to do the same? The Maccabees may have lived thousands of years ago, but their legacy continues to challenge and inspire us today. If this story has moved or inspired you, we invite you to join our community by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. What lessons do you take away from the story of the Maccabees? How does their faith and courage resonate with you? Let's keep this conversation going and continue to draw strength from their extraordinary example. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of history's most remarkable stories. Until next time, may you find strength in your beliefs and unity in your community.